Today we're talking with Dr. Heidi Hanna, who has been a fellow with AIS since 2011. Dr. Hanna serves as the editor of the AIS magazine called Contentment, and she also devotes a large portion of her time to serving on the AIS Daily Life Stress Board. Dr. Hanna is a performance coach and keynote speaker, and she also is the founder and CEO of Synergy, a company that specializes in developing custom health and wellness programs for individuals and organizations. On top of all of that, Dr. Hanna's new book, The Sharp Solution, a brain-based approach to optimal performance, has just landed at number 2 on the New York Times bestseller list. Let's get Dr. Hanna on the phone and see what she has to say about all of this success that she's enjoyed in her life and what has led her to choose a career path in stress management. Welcome, Dr. Hanna. So happy that you could make time in your schedule to visit with me today. It sounds like you're starting a new book tour. That's so exciting.
I am. It's been very busy and very exciting. It turns out everybody really wants to talk about stress. So it's good. It's good that people are at a place right now where I think everybody's looking for some answers and ready to finally start talking about this stuff. So it's been a lot of fun, and I've been busy and I've been stressed, so I'm having to actually practice what I preach, which is great.
Yes, definitely. Well, you know, the first thing we've got to talk about this book. You know, it's landed at number 2 on the New York Times bestseller list, which is phenomenal. You know, what do you hope people take away from this book?
You know, I wrote this book. This was really a personal journey for me because I think that there's a lot of great information out there about the brain and brain health and brain training and especially neuroplasticity. There's all this amazing research. And for myself, as I was reading about all of this, I thought, you know, this is really great, but I don't know that anyone really knows about it or that anyone really knows how to apply this practically to their life. And just a really simple, easy to understand kind of daily life sort of practice. So what I tried to do was take concepts that I found really fascinating and a little bit confusing and simplify them for people. Because I think if there's one thing everybody universally is struggling with right now, it's information overload. And so especially when we're talking about trying to decrease stress or improve brain functioning, the worst thing we can do is overwhelm ourselves with too much information and end up doing nothing. And I think that's where I found myself. I still find myself. I'm reading research this morning thinking, okay, after I go through all of this and there's this big long list of all these things that might be helpful, you know, how do I figure out where to start? What's the most important part? So I think a lot of us unfortunately end up with what they call that analysis paralysis, trying to figure out what to do. And I just really wanted to kind of put together a story that simplified all of this, that helped people understand that the brain is radically adaptable if we train it appropriately, and that the brain can either be our best friend or our worst enemy, depending on how we treat it. Either way, it's trying to protect us, but we can certainly use our brain to our advantage, or we can end up fighting ourselves for years and years trying to, you know, figure out what the perfect thing is to do rather than just getting started doing something.
Right. Well, I certainly agree with everything you've said, and that's kind of part of our mission at AIS is to take this, you know, high-level scientific information that we've gathered over the years and transform it into usable information that people can quickly incorporate into their daily life. So hopefully people, will they get on Amazon to get a copy of your book?
Yes, you can get it pretty much anywhere. So Amazon, Barnes & Noble, I believe probably people can even get it through AIS if they go to the website. So
yes.
A lot of options out there for them.
Wonderful. Well, hopefully, well, you know, you're number 2, so somebody's already gotten this book, and hopefully it'll start changing some lives. You know, we've mentioned before, you wear a lot of different hats, Dr. Hanna. You are a busy woman. You know, you're running a company, you're writing best-selling books, you're juggling a lot of things. What stresses you out?
Listening to you say all of that. Um, unfortunately, I've dealt with a lot of anxiety for most of my life. So I think I had to kind of figure this out early on if I wanted to just keep going. I mean, at about 12 years old, I had my first anxiety attack, and I really struggled with two things in particular: public speaking and flying.
You're kidding.
No. Those are
and now you're a keynote speaker.
And now that's what I do. Well, I remember my first interview with the Human Performance Institute, where I learned a lot of this information that I get to share now. And I remember saying to the president at the time, he said there's going to be all these great opportunities and you can travel and you can speak. And I said, absolutely not. The only way I'm taking this job is if I can stay here in Orlando and train people that come to us, because I was really fearful of traveling and certainly getting up on stage. And, I think we all kind of struggle with that, who am I to
I think, that's the number one fear most people have is public speaking. And here you go. Traveling around the world, public speaking.
Yeah. So, what it was an amazing opportunity to share a message I'm really passionate about. And so I have to keep going back to that and focusing on, what is the message? What's the connection that I can have with people? And being able to travel and speak gives me an open door to share something really important. But what I learned very, very quickly was if I don't take care of myself, I can't be there to take care of anybody else.
Exactly.
And I think people know that, but most people don't actually practice it. They don't take that knowledge or awareness of, I have to charge my own battery or I have to put my own oxygen mask on first. I mean, we talk about it, but what does that mean then? How are you actually going to do that? And so in the book, I talk about these 5 elements of kind of brain health, but they're also the 5 things I would teach for energy management, for stress management, and really they're the things that I have to always go back to when I'm feeling stressed. And because I'm really facing my fears on kind of a daily basis with the traveling and speaking, the fear hasn't gone away. It's just that I've been training myself to be more resilient so that I can manage it more effectively and really work on my mindset and how I perceive the stress that I'm dealing with. Because as you know, stress is not bad. Stress is good. Stress makes us grow.
Motivates you to do better.
Exactly. Yep. But if we aren't taking care of ourselves and we're not building up that resilience, then it's the chronic stress over time that can break us down. And it has absolutely stopped me in my tracks a couple of times.
Well, what techniques do you use personally? What's your personal sort of stress management strategy that helps get you through all the things that you're doing, all the balls that you've got juggling in the air, personally, how do you manage your stress? Do you have a favorite technique? Is there any tools that you use to kind of help you?
Yeah, as I said, what I write about in the book, these kind of 5 key factors. So it's nutrition, physical activity, relaxation, sleep, and social connections. And that's why I call my Fab 5. I actually take a step back when I'm feeling stressed. And again, this happens fairly regularly. And I think about those 5 elements in my life and I look at what might be off balance and maybe one thing I can do in each of those to make a slight adjustment. So for me, nutrition always is first. I've been very sensitive to caffeine, to processed sugar. I respond very quickly. I also have to eat something at least every 3 to 4 hours during the day to keep my blood sugar stable. So when that starts to get out of balance, I physically will feel anxiety, which then triggers the emotional stress and the spiritual stress and all of that as a result. Physical activity. If I've had an injury or I'm really tired, I may not be able to go to the gym, but I can get out and walk. I can move my body more. So when we're not moving, that sends a message to the brain that there's something wrong or we don't have to generate energy because we're not doing anything.
Right.
So that kind of brings it down. So it's really looking at those pieces, relaxation, and actually recognizing that stress management, in my opinion, is less about managing the external and more about managing the internal. So it's making those strategic investments back in ourselves through what I call brain recharge breaks, which is really just a simplified form of meditation. It's just recognizing that even 3 to 5 minutes a few times a day to just shift out of task mode. We spend so much time
on top of it.
Always, being in thinking and analyzing and judging and all of this kind of stuff. And we have to just take a break, get into feeling what we're feeling, paying attention to our breath, and really in only just a few minutes it can trigger that relaxation response that can create more balance. But it is a practice, and so it's got to be consistent. We have to commit to it, put it in our schedule, and hopefully even share with other people that we're working on it so we have that accountability too.
Yes, absolutely. You know, if you're not consciously taking stock every day of where you're at emotionally and physically and mentally, stress can sneak up on you. And before you know it, it can take you down. It can make you sick. If you're already sick, it can make you sicker, and it's harder to get well and get back on your feet. You know, in your Contentment magazine, you focus on gathering together, content that people can practically and easily use in their daily life to help them find this, contentment, this concept of contentment. What is your idea of contentment?
That's such a good question, and I've really juggled with this one a lot because I think a lot of people, like positive psychology is a very popular field, and I really enjoy, the thought of happiness and positivity and optimism. And I think that's, trying to shift to just a more optimistic lens through which we look at life. And so there's practices that we can do to do that. The brain naturally is in more survival mode. And so we focus a lot more on the negative around us, unfortunately, than the positive. To me, contentment is this nice place in between where it's like we're not necessarily super happy or joyful or full of a ton of energy, but contentment is just kind of, to me, that peace of mind to know that all is well, that it's just, you're kind of in flow, or you have what I call my perfect moments. Every now and then, I can't even explain to you, it makes me emotional thinking of it. I can't even explain to you why it happens, but every now and then I hit a moment where I feel completely, fully engaged in what's happening. And I'm not thinking about the future, and I'm not thinking about the past. I'm just totally present, and I'm experiencing what I'm supposed to experience. And to me, that's real contentment. It's really being there in that space. And sometimes it's not even necessarily a joyful experience. It's just knowing that all is as it should be.
Right. On the flip side of that, can you talk about a time when you were completely stressed out? You felt like stress had really gotten the better of you. Where were you, and how did you manage that? How did you handle it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, again, I think because of my sensitivity, I grew up, and I mentioned this for the first time in the book, I grew up thinking my brain was broken, and it just didn't work the way it should because of this anxiety. So I thought it was just always going to be that way. And I think what some of these really stressful opportunities have brought me is the experience to learn and to kind of grow through them. We were talking about the fact that like stress decreases your immune system, yet when we're most stressed is when people tend to take the worst care of themselves because they're busy, dealing with everything else. What I learned very quickly is that, again, being on the road, I hit a point where I was traveling, I don't know, maybe 300,000 miles. It was ridiculous. I was in like 7 different countries. I didn't know what time zone it was, never talked to my friends or family.
You're definitely a platinum leather.
Oh, I'm diamond. Dad, I finally got a diamond. It wasn't the kind I wanted, but it was like, got that status on the airline. And there's something nice to that, but I was totally disconnected. Not only was I stressed because I was traveling, but I had to get up and speak. And I was teaching energy management. Right. So I had to get up and bring this extraordinary energy so that people would listen to me. And I was completely exhausted. At the same time, I was working on my dissertation on stress management and weight management and the connection between the two. I was gaining weight without changing anything about my diet or exercise, but I was so stressed out. And the tipping point for me was learning that my third grandparent had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. And so all of a sudden I'm making this connection of what am I doing to my brain? Oh my gosh, what am I doing to my brain? I'm gaining weight, I'm exhausted, I'm totally disconnected from my life. I'm sharing a message that's important, but I can't live it at this pace. Right. And I completely, had an identity crisis. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do anymore. I can't do this. So I was able to take a little bit of time and kind of process what was going on. And what's interesting is I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to find something else. I'm going to sell my condo and get a little apartment, maybe move in with my parents. I mean, I had arranged everything in my life to take the pressure off. And I thought, what would I do if I could do anything? And I came back to exactly what I'm doing. But what I realized was it was doing it with a different perspective, taking the pressure off and really truly taking care of myself the way I knew I needed to. And so the biggest commitment that I made at that point was to get massage, a weekly massage, which seemed like such an indulgence.
Yes.
And I still feel guilty telling people about it sometimes. But the point is that I committed to myself that if I'm going to be able to do this, I have to. I don't have a choice.
Right.
It's really literally like take care of yourself or find another job that doesn't stress you out, which I don't know that there is such a thing.
Right.
So I committed to myself to do that, and that kind of led to other things. And now I really focus on that and making some compromises, because it's not like you can just, I make compromises, like maybe I don't go out on the weekends, or I don't spend money doing other things because I'm paying for something that I feel like is more nourishing.
You really need that.
Yeah,
it helps you in your life. I think, thank you for sharing that with us. I think that a lot of times people see the PhD behind your name, or they might look at the AIS website and think, these are experts and it's all, what do they don't have any worries. They're best-selling authors, so it helps to see that everybody suffers from stress. And if you don't actively take steps and figure out what it is that's going to help you be your best, you're not going to make it.
That's right.
And then I think about, what inspires you daily? What inspires you now that you've kind of gotten your head around what's keeping you going? What pulls you forward? Not just, getting from point A to point B in your day, but what really is the inspiration that drives this passion that you obviously have to get on that plane every single day and go out and change the world, Dr. Hanna?
When I think about it as what you're saying, the PhD and the bestseller and changing the world and all of this, it's too much. I'm like, I am not a big deal at all. I'm not worthy. It's interesting, but it feels like for a lot of people, the more kind of outwardly success you get, the more you start questioning a lot of those things, and the pressure just builds. And now suddenly you don't even have people to really talk to you about that, because the people who understand what you're going through, like there's less of them available because everyone's so busy. It's really just a bizarre situation. But what I have learned very quickly is that what drives me is the connection with the people. It's the individuals that I get to talk to. And in particular, when I feel like I need something to motivate me, it's really caregivers. And caregivers can be all sorts of different types of people. I think of caregivers as being counselors and teachers and mothers and business owners, but specifically caregivers of people who are sick, caregivers of people with Alzheimer's disease and what they're going through. And if I can somehow reach some of those people and help them understand the need to take care of themselves, because caregivers typically lose I believe it's about 2 years of their life because of the stress that's put on their system for caring for someone else. And they always say, well, I'll take care of myself later. But they don't get that chance. Plus the damage is being done. So I see that happening with some of my own loved ones. I certainly see that happening as I go out and speak and I get to connect to people afterwards. And every now and then I see it. I see a click. I see that kind of aha with somebody where they seem to get it. And I think the key is, once we have people motivated to think about it differently, we have to provide them the tools. And that's one of the things I love about AIS and what we're all trying to do together is, yes, share this message, but also what are we going to do to give people the tools to become more resilient so that they can be stronger and they can start to change the story that they're telling themselves about taking care of themselves, and the fact that it is not selfish to take care of yourself. It's actually the best thing you can do for the people that you love.
Right. Of all of those things, what do you see as your greatest achievement? Would it be, obviously you've got a long list of professional achievements, but that stacked up to, on a personal level, you really seem to have maybe gotten it together, to you, what's your greatest achievement to this point?
Yeah. It's interesting because there's things I can think about, special moments in my life, I think one of the saddest things about accomplishment is that we're always looking at the next thing. It's like we don't really stop and take time to enjoy some of those accomplishments. For me, honestly, the thing I'm most proud of is that I'm still doing what I'm doing. I think the fact that I get up every day and face the fear that I have around, again, makes me emotional, but you know, the fear, the stress that's out there, I think it would have been really easy to change my career path the first time that it kind of broke me down. And each time now that I go through those periods of life, I see it as part of the journey. I see something really exciting coming up, because if I'm in the middle of some passion to be able to share it with other people. So it's really not the big things anymore to me. It's the fact that, you know, here I am talking to you, and here I am getting more involved, putting myself out there even more because it's something I believe in. And even though, you know, there's fear and anxiety involved.
You know, can you see yourself doing anything else? I listen to you, and we talk often, Dr. Hanna, and we're so proud to have you as part of our fellowship at AIS. And I just think, you know, you're Heidi Hanna, PhD, best-selling author, you know, CEO and founder of a, you know, national corporation. You know, could you do anything else? If you weren't Heidi Hanna, who would you be? Can you see yourself doing any other profession?
Well, my first thought is I would like to be a professional golfer, but I don't think I have the skill for that. But you know, if it was long enough ago and I switched, maybe. I think, you know, I can't see myself doing anything else. And it's funny because I've actually stopped and gone through that process so many times. I mean, I do it fairly regularly where I question, is this really what I want to do? Because there are other options, and I think I could be very content doing something else, you know? But when it really comes down to it, there's this incredible opportunity. I think that the message is so important, and I think that we're in such a great place. I think people are finally getting ready to talk about stress. I think that up until now, it's been very difficult because it's been seen as a sign of weakness.
Right.
But I think that people are so overwhelmed and so exhausted and so ready for change that people are being a little bit more authentic about what they're going through, and it's really pulling people together. I think we need a group like, you know, AIS to be a clearinghouse for some of that information and give people a really good quality source of research-based information.
Exactly.
Which for me just makes me so proud. I'm not in the laboratory. I'm not doing, you know, the really nitty-gritty research. So to collaborate with people who are and bring the gifts that I have of being able to communicate this message in a simple way to people and help them apply it really just thrills me beyond belief, makes me proud to be part of this group.
We're so happy to have you. I tell you that all the time. We're just so grateful that we have all of your energy and passion and forward thinking and insights.
Mm.
Where do you think the future of stress management lies?
I think there's two things happening. I think one is that we have this amazing technology that's bringing us a lot of tools. I do think it's a little bit ironic that we're trying to disconnect from technology and we're using technology to do it. You know, I've got my Fitbit on, and I've got different apps like Bloom that sends me reminders to do my breaks, and it's just like still a lot of technology. So I think there's two things going on in parallel. One is we have a lot more tools, we have a lot more available to us, and I think we're going to need to find out what works and help people kind of guide them to what works for them individually. But at the same time, I think we have to simplify it. I think we have to take a step back and really say, you know, there's such a wealth of information, but what are the core things that people need to be doing? And let's take the rest of it off the plate for a while. Because if you're not doing the basic fundamental self-care strategies, then all of the apps and all of the gizmos and all of the neurofeedback and the advanced training is not going to do anybody any good. We have to get back to the fundamentals. We've got to take breaks. We've got to connect with people socially. And I think going back to basics is really going to be where the direction hopefully leads us. And maybe using some of those tools to do that, but not relying so much on technology to control us. It's really for our convenience. It's not supposed to tell us what to do.
Right. Well, I'm sure that in our contentment magazine, you're leading the way on all of that, and I know that you've got some plans coming out the rest of the year to talk about some of these apps that you mentioned, to talk about sort of building inner resilience without all of the technology. So we look forward to those issues coming out later this year. Dr. Hanna, I appreciate you taking time with us today in between heading out on the road to promote your new book. One final question, and you can only answer the question with one sentence, okay?
Okay.
Dr. Hanna, who are you?
I am a former stressaholic working on recovery one moment at a time.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Hanna. We'll talk to you
Thank you.
soon.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.